opportunities. So they're going to be talking about what's happening in Texas market and how that's going to impact us on an ongoing basis. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Did you guys get your lunch? Come on now, have a seat. Let's get this going. Eric Bartes, Smita Singh, come on up. Come on up. Don't feel shy. Everyone. Chris, come on, Chris. Come on up. Chris Kelso. The two Chris's walking around together.
We got Chris Kelso in the house?
Yes.
Oh my God, everyone give Chris Kelso a round of applause. What's up, Chris?
How you doing, bud?
All right. Can you guys hear us pretty well? Yeah? Is everyone awake?
Yeah.
You know, the good part about having food is you get to eat. The bad part is everyone's going to fall asleep now. Right? Now, I hope you guys don't fall asleep. Listen, we have Rob Cook in the house, myself, Ron Rana. The reason why we wanted to bring this to you guys is because there is a major change happening within our industry. Okay? A lot of you realtors, be honest, a lot of you realtors have problem with wholesalers because wholesalers are making $100,000 a month without a license. How many realtors in here are making $100,000 a month as a realtor? That's what I thought. All right.
Well, Ron, before we get started,
We're gonna-
people are grateful that they came today.
I'm trying to get them pumped up.
I thought Thomas Blackwell did a great job, and I am grateful
He did.
for the invitation here today. Of course, we also want to look forward to a great 2022 and what the market looks like. And before we let Ron loose, we are going to talk about wholesaling. I want you to know how many people would like to be the speaker following Thomas. Yeah, now you know how I feel.
Yes.
So anyway, going from we are looking for another brisk market. And how many people are seeing a great market right now? Interest rates are still low. Interest rates are going to go up. The Fed is pulling out of the marketplace. They're not buying mortgage-backed security, so interest rates might go to 3.75 by the end of the year. Oh my God. When I was in the business back in the 80s, guess what interest rates were? How many? 18%. No, I wish we'd had 8. We would have died, gone to heaven at that time. But the marketplace is changing. Wholesale is the piece of it. And we need to talk about it. So we look for it, and all the economists are saying the same thing. We have a pent-up demand. A lot of people pulled out of the market last year. Period. I'm frustrated. I'm working with a buyer's agent. I can't find a property. 1.4 months supply of homes right now. That's not enough. You know what a healthy market is? Anybody? 6 months is a healthy market. And so Chris Kelso and I do a radio show together called Real Estate Rat Pack, and Ron has agreed to come on this weekend.
Yeah.
So I hope I can keep him under wraps into that time. But we usually do about 5 minutes of begging and pleading. Please go out and get a list. Who are realtors in the house right now? Okay, everybody remain your realtors. We have our lovely title company, Joyce. Always good to see you. So, yeah, get out and get a listing. We need some. We got a lot of pent-up demand buyers. Rates are going to go up. But you know what? The 2020, the amount of mortgages done in 2020 was about $5 trillion. That's what the T is. Is that correct, Chris?
That is right.
Top year. Anyone know the previous year that was the top year?
I do.
I know, I learned all this from you. 2003. Of course, in 2020, the average rate was a little over 3%. 2003, they did what, 3.8 trillion, somewhere on that range, which if you use for inflation, actually was a better year. 5.75% was the average. So don't worry, these rates. How many people have been in the business 2 years or less? And how many people, when they find out that interest rates are going to go up, start panicking? Don't panic. And your buyers who say, "Well, I'm thinking I'm waiting for interest rates to go down." Well, by the time written interest rates go down, which I don't see that happening, the price of the house they wanted is going to go up 10%. So get them off that fence. Get them going. So those are the things we need. Work. How many people belong to or subscribe to Inman News? Okay, it's free if you're an HAR member. The reason I bring that up is what's happening in the marketplace is in those articles. And I don't read all of them because they will inundate you with emails. You'll get about 3 or 4 a day. Each email has a link to about 3 or 4 different articles. But things are happening out there. Everybody know that NAR is under a lawsuit.
Yes.
Sellers and 5 major brokerages are also in that lawsuit. And the DOJ, we actually have an agreement with the DOJ, the Department of Justice. And they reneged on it. They pulled out without prejudice, which means in the lawful terms that they can come back. And they are. Will that impact your business? Good. Sellers are saying, why am I paying the buyer's agent? In a lot of areas, they're not being very transparent about what a buyer's agent's getting paid. We're actually ahead of the curve. In fact, HARs, I used to speak around the country when I was chair for HAR, we're light years ahead of the rest of them. We have been transparent. And that's what we're talking about a lot today, of what's happening with wholesaling, is about transparency. You know, when you see rules change and regulations coming in because of bad behavior, does anyone admit we have some bad behavior out there?
I'll admit it. I see what wholesalers are doing.
It's often about this is my transition piece. I want to get some people to be excited about 2022 because it's going to be a dynamic year. Last year's a dynamic year. We have year over year exceeded sales. So we got record year over record year over record year. And actually our numbers are down for December. But we were up about 13% for the year over year. What do you think the average price in Houston is right now?
$325. Oh, median or average?
Average. 375. And yeah, it was a year. And the actual for the December over December, it was like 377. Know your numbers and know what's going on in your industry because it can impact you. And don't be afraid of it, but be prepared for it. That's what I'm doing. Get people prepared. And information is power. Just like we talk about, words are powerful. Be informed. That's what you owe your clients because they want to know. They can go find a house. In fact, you can't throw a rock down a road without hitting a house. You have a value proposition at the transaction. And part of your value proposition is knowing what's going on. And so this is my transition right here. So I'm going to defer a lot to Ron because you know when I was told I was going to be speaking about 10:15 this morning. So I have nothing prepared. So and the thing is, did anybody get a survey from TREC last week?
Last Friday, did any of you realtors get a survey about wholesaling? About your thoughts?
Check your emails.
Check your emails. Who hasn't been checking?
Because what they want to do is they want to put some regulations on wholesaling. And you know what? I actually did a form of wholesaling back in the 80s when I was doing development. I would buy a piece of land, I put it under contract for myself, and I would flip it to a partnership basically. So you're selling your position in a contract. That's all it is. And the issue that a lot of people are having is the direct transparency that a lot of people are acting like it's their listing or their homes. And so TREC's looking at this go like, one of the things that I remember doing, teaching a legal update class, they talked about you have to inform them, you have an economic interest in the transaction and that you do not own it. If I see wholesalers out there going putting things on MLS, and you have to have permission from your sellers to put it in the MLS system. The wholesalers are doing it, they don't own it yet. They don't have a vested interest at that point. So I think that's some of the issues. They're not doing anything illegal. It's been going on for decades. And so, Ron, I'm going to kind of turn this over to you. This is your wheelhouse.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Rob. Everybody give Robert a big, big round of applause. Awesome. Cool. We'll have you, if you'd like to sit right here, we got you front and center. This is, you're going to stand? Perfect. We'll stand. I'll stand too. No, you don't. All right. So no, you don't make me nervous, but I am honored to be here to share this stage with you. So thank you. Of course, thank you all for coming out today. We have a packed house, so certainly appreciate all of you guys. Make sure you guys are grabbing your lunch. If you're done, please come on back to your seats. This is a very important and sensitive topic that's happening right now. How many of you guys, again, I'm going to repeat this question. You guys have seen an email from TREC asking you about wholesaling. What are your thoughts? That's kind of like asking a cat their thoughts about the dog, right? Realtors don't like wholesalers in general. or let's face it, let's call a spade, right? Now, my name is Ron Rana. I own and operate Investopia Online. We are a full-fledged wholesaling operation. We wholesale everything from single-family homes, land, mobile home, storage units, and 100-unit plus apartment complexes. Okay, we are a multi-million-dollar wholesaling company. I do not have a license. Let that settle in. I'm not as smart as you guys. I can't sit in the school and go through classes, right? It's nothing to do with ethics with me because we are accredited by the Better Business Bureau, so we rely on that heavily when we do transactions with sellers. But at the end of the day, there are going to be some bad apples, right, guys? Do you agree? Yes or yes? Yes, yes or yes? There we go, right? The more crowd participation I get, the more pumped up this is going to be, right? So again, right, they've called for regulations. I'm going to give you a little bit of insight. This is not the first time regulations have been called in Texas, okay? So this is not new. What's new is Illinois has regulated wholesaling now. What's new is Pennsylvania has regulated wholesaling now. This has happened in the last 6 months. You see what I'm saying? Previously, nobody was regulating it, so no one really cared what was happening, right? Also, Georgia is exploring regulations of wholesaling, right? Pennsylvania has now regulated wholesaling. Look it up. The data's out there, right, guys? Why is it being regulated? Because what's happening is it comes down to one thing, right? Ethics at the end of the day, right? You got to do right by the seller. As a realtor, you guys are always doing right by your buyer and your seller, right? Yes or yes? Cool. So now don't get me wrong, full disclosure, I was always against being a realtor. I couldn't, I don't know. Again, we're not going to go there. But at the end of the day, once they start talking about these regulations and stuff like that, then that's a whole separate story, right? Now, the question is, my phone's been blowing up all weekend for sure. We've been in talks, with HAR and TREC. So I'm honored to be leading that platform for the wholesale community in Texas. And they're talking about regulating it. What does that mean for us as wholesalers? That means we're going to have to abide by the laws of the land now, right? We can't just leave Sally Mae at closing now because we couldn't move her house. What's happening is wholesalers are getting a property under contract, and we're going to closing. We have Sally Mae here who's U-hauled everything out of Houston or anywhere in Texas. Let's take an example, out of Houston to California, and now ABC Wholesaler, who learned it from YouTube University, right, couldn't find a buyer. Sally's at closing. He just said he can't close on the property. Is that right? No, that's not right. That's why there's a lot of regulations that are coming down on wholesaling. Yes, you can make a lot of money. There are many wholesalers who are doing 20, 30, 40, 50 grand a month just doing this, okay? I'm going to address the elephant in the room. Do we need wholesalers? 100%. Investors will always need somebody to do the dirty work because an investor is not going to go out and put out bandit signs. An investor is not going to go out and make 10,000 phone calls, right? We're going to need, I'm getting a couple claps in the back. So yeah, right? We're going to need wholesalers. Absolutely. We're going to need wholesalers, right? But it really comes down to the ethics of this business and doing the right thing. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? It's
100% correct.
It's doing the right thing. So wherever Kunal is, Kunal wanted to do a Q&A with Rob and I and address this situation, right? Also, many realtors, for a lot of reasons, despise wholesaling because of the tactics that are out there. Lying to sellers. It happens. Hey, I'm going to buy your house, or I'm going to pay cash for your property. There's a lot of high schoolers trying to buy these houses. They don't have the funds. That's illegal. You cannot do that. Even as a wholesaler, I mentor and coach people how to get into real estate, right? We have an education platform, Wholesaling Real Estate 101, and we tell our students the exact same thing. You must have the intention to purchase that property. You cannot purchase that property without having the right intentions moving forward. So again, right, it's all about doing the right thing. So Kunal had asked me, say, hey, Ron, I know you got a lot of stuff going on right now, And I want to, definitely have you and Rob Cook come up and speak about this topic. And I said, absolutely, this is a major topic that's happening. There are over 150,000 realtors in Texas. Trust me, I Googled it. There's a lot of realtors.
And there's about 210,000 license holders. So
And-
not everybody's a realtor member. So
There you go. And so let's take a roundabout, right? So you said we're already at over 300. But look at this, guys. There's so much opportunity, all right? I run a class, how to wholesale as a realtor. I teach realtors how to wholesale ethically. Now, you can go out there and make, who doesn't mind making an extra 20K a month? It's working. People are doing it. I have many students in here. Matter of fact, in the back, big shout out to some of my students are here. They're realtors. Abdul and his wife, their first deal, they were looking for off-market properties. You guys are investors. People want to get into real estate, right? Their first deal made $70K on their flip, $70,000. I mean, as a realtor, I don't know how much amount of a property you'd have to do. What's 3%? It's a lot of money.
well, any one of these people can multiply any number by 3% and tell you exactly
There
what
you
it is.
And that tells you don't have to be good at math to make millions. I'm bad at math, but I'm good at counting money. So, but at the end of the day, this topic is extremely, extremely important, guys. You guys do not understand. This is how laws change. We have plans to go out to Austin and speak to TREC about this. This is big. This is going to be massive. And again, I appreciate all of you guys for coming out here and listening to what we have to say, because again, kind of like what Thomas said, it starts with one person. It always starts with one person, right? So I'm going to hand over the mic to Kunal, and then we'll do a Q&A, and we'll kind of go from there. We'll talk about wholesaling and regulations.
Let me ask the first question then.
Sure.
So one of the issues has been that sellers don't understand the process, and basically you will put it under contract, and
Yes.
you're going to go find an investor to buy you out of that contract. How do you assure them that this property is going to close?
So it's all about doing market research, right? We know what market is selling. We know what market isn't selling. The best way to approach this conversation with a seller is to clear out your intentions with it, right? Now, of course, if you're a realtor, you have to disclose that you are a realtor. You are a realtor, but you're not acting on behalf of the seller. You are there as an investor. Everyone got that? So you can wholesale. You just have to disclose it as a realtor. Me as a wholesaler, you have to remember now, these wholesalers who are saying, hey, we're going to buy your property cash as is, we have many partners that can fund this deal within 7 days. So their partners are going to be either, their buyers or their lenders, etc. But a wholesaler should not get a property under contract if they know they cannot move it. In order to mitigate that, we ask our buyers, hey, what area are you looking at? What type of property are you looking for? Right? We don't just go out and throw everything against the wall and see what sticks and then blast it out to the universe. No, we actually know what our buyers are looking for. So that's how we are able to do these deals.
Well, I know I won't mention the name of the educator, Lifestyles Unlimited, but if they actually teach people to go out and do this, and oftentimes the person won't have like earnest money. They're going to get that from the investor. They don't have option money. They're going to get that from the investor. And that's been some of the issues. They sit there and they get it under contract, and then nothing shows up.
Yeah, and that's a great, that I understand what you're saying, and you're going to be shocked, Rob, what we get properties under contract for. We are known to get properties under contract for $10. That's it. I created that system. Why? Because if I have $5,000 earnest money out there and we're doing over 300 deals a year, we can't have that floating around. It's all about building that rapport and trust with the seller. If you know you can move that property, it comes down to your due diligence. That's what it comes down to. Really, if you know that property is going to move, seller, all Sally wants is for her property to sell at the end of the day, right? So yes, you are right. Now there are wholesalers out there who are putting $100 and that's it, and that's a whole separate argument. But at the end of the day, you can buy real estate with zero down. People will pay you at closing for buying their houses. It's not illegal. It's their loopholes. The laws are created to use to capitalize on that, such as subject to, right? There's many strategies that you can use. You can purchase the property subject to the mortgage, right? And at that point, the seller brings money or the seller, you can get money from the seller too. So there's many ways where we, again, right, wholesalers are a blessing to this industry. I'm telling you guys right now, we take people out of situations who are going through a death, who are going through a divorce. We live in a country with a 50% divorce rate, right? Shout out to the married couples in here, all right? No, happily for 12 years. So we live in a country with a 50% divorce rate. There's guys out there who are going to go do the dirty work, right? It happens. The minions have to go out there and do all the work for the investor. And that's what we do. We spend 30, 40, 50 grand a month in marketing. You guys are not going to do that. People barely get business cards on Vistaprint. I mean, it's just how it is, right? But we have to make sure that we're out there doing this due diligence for the investor. But it really comes down to doing the legwork. Not investors don't want to do the legwork. That's why they pay us a $10,000 fee to bring them a deal, right? But the question is, right, are we going to regulate this or not? That's the whole thing.
I think it goes back to the issue of transparency, because a lot of people are not doing it correct. And I've actually defended that industry often. I said there's a lot of people out there doing it right.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people out there doing it wrong. But you know what? There's a lot of license holders out there doing it wrong. And so I always think that education and transparency in any transaction is going to make the, because we're all about helping the consumer. You're helping the seller.
Yes.
We're helping sellers and buyers. So I think that's the part we need. We need transparency in all the transactions. I think that's where the regulation may help for some of the people who are deciding, I'm just going to let them think I'm the seller. I won't tell them that, because that's happening out there. I mean, it's just a reality. And you're the people I defend, because you do it as a business, and you do it properly, and you have a cadre of investors ready to buy.
Yes.
These people who are just getting out of these schools, they don't have anybody. They're going to hope and pray that they find somebody.
And they don't even go to school, Rob. They're on YouTube University.
That's really important.
Again, they need guys like us who are giving the proper education in order to do this business, right? Wholesalers, what the problem with wholesalers is that they say, oh, I've just flipped a property, or I've done this, or I've done that. You don't flip a property. Remember, wholesalers are selling their equitable interest in the property. So it's a piece of contract.
Ron, I think we have a comment or question here.
Yes, we have a question. Alton, what's up, brother?
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
So I actually have a question in terms of transparency, because I feel like, yes, you can, definitely have regulation, and you can have licenses that hold that regulation. However, I'm curious as to how the board feels like it'll be different when you have the same side as far as for transparency with the abundance of, and it's not a jab, but it's realtors taking advantage of their stance with sellers that we don't have, right? I mean, obviously that's the whole fight we have. Realtors have a name, realtors have a distinguished reputation to come up with or to have, and basically of using that to a sense of in wholesaling, right? And obviously I appreciate Ron with treating or with teaching these individuals or the realtors and whatnot how to wholesale with your license. However, I feel like over the last 3, 4, 5 years in wholesaling, because realtors have been, picking up on wholesaling, that it's been abused in the transparent way. Thank you.
That's a great question. I think that's a question for you, Rob. So that's a great question. Thank you for that, Alton.
Well, we actually, of course, I teach the ethics class and things like that. One of the things we have a code of ethics that we want to follow and maintain. And so I think in regulating wholesale, which I know you hate that sentence, regulation in that in wholesale, it's going to be about education. It's going to be about transparency. It's going to be about people behaving in a professional manner. And let's face it, we have license holders who have that they abide by the code of ethics and they know all the TREC rules and they still do the thing. So, I mean, you're always going to get some bad seats out. Unfortunately, what happens is anybody ever go to a mechanic and you got the bill from them and you went, oh my God, these people are ripping me off.
Yeah.
What's the first thing you do after that happens to you?
Cry.
After you cry,
Blame somebody.
you go tell all your friends, don't you? And that's where the bad seat. So there's 45,000 of us here in Houston. How many people do you think makes it to look bad? Just a handful. The power of one. I like that, man. The power of one. So that's why I think regulation has come in, because we're getting people who want to do it their way. They're not educated. And so I support your business. I just think we need to make sure that people are doing it correctly. It's like realtors have to abide by rules, TREC rules, code of ethics. So that's what I think we might be seeing in the future for you. I don't think they're going to try to kill your business.
No, I don't think that.
So kind of explain to us what they're proposing.
So, especially we had a question right here too. Maybe Kunal can.
It's on the same topic.
It's on the, okay, maybe we can pass around the mic.
Yeah.
Cool.
I don't need a mic, I don't think. But it sounds like maybe Alton's thinking like, if there's gonna be some transparency regulations, if there's gonna be transparency of regulations, might there end up being like a wholesale license?
Yeah, they might come down to an association, if that's what you're saying. Yeah, so there possibly could be, and that's something that we are exploring here in Texas, as far as, putting an association together where these wholesalers do have to go by a certain code of ethics, code of conduct. And then, yeah, maybe, again, TREC approved school for wholesaling, because it's going to stay here. There's going to be wholesaling will stay regardless. It's all about, right, how do you regulate this? And the calm chatter was, does TREC want to be in our pockets? So, there's a lot of stuff that's happening right now in the industry where, again, like you said, wholesalers are, like Alton said, the last couple of years, there's been people who come in, you see them posing in front of the Lambos and all that stuff. And
Or the Bentleys.
or the
Was that you?
Thank you, Andrew. Or the Bentleys. Yes. Did you hit my car? Somebody hit it randomly.
I've never seen.
I bet you it was a realtor.
Got the question
It was
here.
someone. No, but long story short, I think that, yes, there should be an association done, and it should
It's
start.
not in the works yet.
It's not in the works yet. This is the first dialogue we're having with TREC.
So my question is in regards to when you have a contract, say, already signed by a seller, what percentage would you say go to an iBuyer? Do you turn around and refer them over, or how is that done?
So we don't, as a wholesaler, we don't deal with iBuyers, because iBuyers is a retail outlet, right? They're buying deals. They're buying more of on a retail stand. We're looking for investors, right? So as far as an investor goes, what was I completely lost train of thought. What your question was?
So I'm just wondering, yeah, are you selling to iBuyers, and
No.
do you shop that property prior to, once you get the contract? Because, well, you've already mentioned all the rest, how individuals, they'll get the contract and then they'll kind of try and dupe you to say, oh, I got a buyer for your home, and they really don't, and then they sit on that contract for a couple of weeks and try to procure a buyer. So I'm just wondering, has the trend been to, look in the way of iBuyers to sell or to buy that home?
So what you're talking about is daisy chaining. That's also illegal too, because that wholesaler does not have equitable interest without a JV contract. Okay, that's called daisy chaining, and a lot of wholesalers do that. They'll contact us and say, "Hey, I've got sometimes we'll see our properties on Facebook, and we're like, and we haven't authorized them to list that property online." So to answer your question, we look for investors only. iBuyers and a lot of those guys like Zillow, they were buying houses for a little bit too. Like, we're not selling to those companies because we don't own that asset. Remember, we're selling our equitable interest in the property. Unless wholesalers are using transactional funding, okay, that's another topic we can talk on later on. But there's a lot of wholesalers who wholesale the property. They don't wholesale it, they wholesale it. It's called lipstick on a pig. You're getting the property under contract. You close on the deal as the wholesaler, okay? Put it on the MLS for the quick profit. Does that make sense? So at that point, if an iBuyer comes in, I'll sell it to him. But I cannot sell to an iBuyer unless if I'm assigning it. Does that make sense?
With hedge funds?
Yes, we deal with hedge funds.
Would that fall under
No.
iBuyer strategy?
No, they do not. Hedge funds do not fall under iBuyers, because they're just a collective group of individuals. They're anyone who are looking to buy a property. Hope that answers your question. Okay.
Sorry. So question is, I guess in the general conversation that's happening right now, is it more geared towards association or is it more geared towards licensing?
It'll first be most likely from what we are hearing, it's going to be geared towards more licensing, and then I think there's going to be an association born out of that.
Just because I feel like there's a lot of deterrent with licensing, but at the same time, I mean, wholesaling itself is a workaround, right? I mean, it's a loophole, right?
Yes.
People are going to find that loophole regardless. And at the end of the day, there's smaller groups, there's a group of wholesalers out there that had bad intentions going into it, right? They had no intention of doing good. They're just there to make money, right? I mean, obviously that's not us, right?
Yes.
You know, but at the same time, if you're saying, hey, look, you trying to get this license, but then you're going to be yes regulations, but there's going to be loopholes all around it. I mean, I think association is a huge step more because of the fact that, hey, look, if I'm a new wholesaler coming into the game, and I say, hey, I have to get licensed. Oh no, I'm not going to get licensed. I'm just going to figure out whatever other shady business I'm going to do in real estate, i.e. wholesaling, to get by or to make money.
No, and I agree with you 100%. Again, right, it all starts with regulations. They're going to regulate it regardless. And then from that regulation will be born a association for wholesalers. That's what's happening that we are seeing. So, yeah.
Question over here.
Yes.
Is there any current regulations right now with regard to wholesaling, either for just regular wholesaling or as a realtor wholesaling?
No, there's regulations as a realtor wholesaling. That is correct, and that is set from TREC and HAR. So you have to, again, like I was mentioning before, as a realtor, you must disclose your intentions for that deal. So if you are a realtor and you want to wholesale, because who agrees with me? Not everything is wholesale MLSable. Not everything goes on the MLS.
Is that even a word?
MLSable.
MLSable.
I'm like, can we copyright that? I love it. But not everything is MLSable, right? So say you have a property, you're like, man, but you know, I know this property, you're gonna need to, why is that seller contacting you? They don't have 40 grand to fix the house. They don't have 50 grand to fix that house, right? So you go in there, you said, hey, I am a cash buyer, but I'm here acting as an investor, not on behalf as a realtor. I'm not representing
At
you.
that point in time, does that satisfy
Yes,
the requirement from TREC?
that is correct, but you must have it in contract also. It must be in your contract. You can put it in the special provisions, the seller must sign off on it.
That's fair enough, right? So you basically are saying I'm a realtor, but in this transaction, I'm not.
I'm not representing you at all, yes.
And then the second part is I've seen a lot of the investor forums where there's, I think what's happening is what I'm seeing is that the title companies now are maybe putting special provisions in with regard to disclosure. So do you see any of that? Are you coming across any of that? And do you see that being potentially more prevalent of how they're going to get around it, whoever they are, right?
So you are right. Some title companies are coming down with it. I've seen that in the last week or so on forums and on social media. But this is why you have to find an investor-friendly title company. This is why. You can't just go to like I know Stewart Title is their retail, right? So if you go to them, then they're not investor friendly. You got to find some of these investor friendly title companies in order to work with.
You probably know a few, right?
I do. Yes, I do. I have the plug on everybody. Yes, sir.
So one of the things that I understand, and you can call it a regulation or not, but it's disclosing your intention with the property, or for example, you don't have the ability to list the property as a wholesaler, right? You have to say, I do not own the property, I only have equitable interest, so on and so forth. So to me, I see it as a regulation, whether or not it is or not, I don't know. But my question is, are there talks, or are there conversations about what is gonna be put in place in terms of regulations? I understand there's talks about licensing, but how about the actual, the law behind it? I know it's conversations right now, but just curious.
No, it all starts with a conversation. That might be something that could be proposed to the lawmakers, right? And the higher ups, the TREC. And that's something that they can explore, where they're going to have to put it in writing to state what's going on with the property.
And there's no conversations at this point about making it illegal or anything like
Wholesaling will not become illegal.
that? In Texas, right?
They can't. Even states that regulated it, it's still not illegal. Illinois, wholesaling is not illegal.
What
Again,
is done in Illinois?
Illinois has been regulated to the fact that you can wholesale one property without a license, and then you must find a wholesale-friendly brokerage. So you go through their brokerage. Does that make sense?
A realtor has to do it.
A realtor,
Oklahoma.
and the same thing in Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, you have to go through a realtor.
You have to go through a brokerage or a realtor.
And you have to get licensed if you decide to.
Yes, if you decide to do if you're doing 25, 30 deals a month, you don't keep using that realtor's license because they're making money, right? But at the end of the day, you want to get your own license and stuff like that, for sure. Yeah, no problem. I think EXP has a pretty good brand, right? You guys, what do you guys do at EXP? You license people?
Just on Saturdays and Sundays.
Shameless plug. Yeah, so that 100%. So that I hope that answers your question. Great, Rob. You got Kunal. You got any other questions? I know you had a few
No
questions.
but it's all about, we all see value in being in real estate, whether you're a wholesaler, lender, realtor, does not matter. So a leveraging of one another. Our vision for 2022 is we're going to train our realtors to be more aware of regulations, guidelines on doing wholesaling. We're going to train, coach, and mentor wholesalers how do you cross the line and be an ethical realtor. So it's all about cross-functioning, training one another. That's why Ron Rana's leadership team, us partnering with Rob Cook, having his knowledge-based expertise is to help us train you guys. So it's about widening your horizon of 2022. If you're a wholesaler, learn about real estate guidelines. How do you do it correctly? Give us opportunity. If you're a realtor, learn about wholesaling. It's about getting your tool bag ready for the future.
Regulations, right? So I hear this word that kind of just scares people, right? But what I'm hearing, I just want to just make sure. If you're a realtor and you tell them, I am a realtor, but I am not representing you as a seller, I am an investor, you're good.
Yes, that's
And
correct.
you just put that in special provisions.
Put that in writing. Have them
And you're
acknowledge.
good. There's no more regulations, right? There's no more regulations to train.
Right now. Yeah. That's what's happening right now. That is correct. So,
Yeah, you're looking at, TREC has not been known to move very quickly. So they're just now kind of exploring, and they're looking at what other states have done.
Yeah, TREC doesn't move quickly, but I hear regulations and I just
Well, they're gonna do
train on
something.
regulations, but I've heard there's only one little thing or two,
They will do something.
Perfect.
And it's consumer driven, by the way.
Yeah.
Question. Hey, so this whole thrust is all about regulating assignments, right? Do you guys think this would encompass acquiring properties like sub-2 or owner finance as well? Because essentially that's not assigning. If it's acquisition through sub-2 or owner finance, I mean, will it be regulated as well at that point?
see, you want the short answer?
Yes.
Yes, it comes down to the ethics. So even if I'm purchasing a property using creative financing, yes, at the end of the day, it's by doing right by the seller, right? Because wholesalers, when they're buying a property subject to the mortgage, right? Sometimes they're not explaining it the right way, right? They see a couple of videos on YouTube, they take a couple of training courses, and they think they're certified now to do sub-2 deal. Subject to is a very advanced strategy.
It's also what they call a wrap.
Yes.
And it's not illegal, but there's some pitfalls in it. And so actually, I'm an expert witness on a case that went bad.
Okay.
Yeah, the note got called.
The note called. So he's saying the note was
the
called
seller's
to.
original note. A note, a wrap is a note and deed of trust subject to an existing note and deed of trust. And again, it's not illegal, but if you read the language that has been in there since 1989, there's a due on sale clause. In other words, if the lender gets a word that is sold, they can call it due and payable immediately. And that's what I'm expert witness on right now, is that particular case. We haven't even done findings yet. It's getting started. There is some mechanism in place to do it correctly. There's a company out there who will actually service those to make sure that the underlying note gets paid. And that's what this lawsuit is about. is the underlying note was not being paid. So you got a buyer that's doing the right thing, they're paying on their note, but the person has the underlying note is not paying it. And therefore it went into foreclosure. And so this poor person, and there typically happens with somebody from another culture. They come here, they have the ability to make money, they have money, and they put it down on the house. And so they didn't understand how business is done, and they didn't understand the possible circumstances that might happen. So, yeah.
I guess going back to kind of the conversation that Jeremy had being had, which is this going to possibly be like a separate license, or is it going to be an actual realtor license? I mean, is the broker going to have to be involved in transactions, or not? Right?
Yeah, no, I think at some point, the point is to get licensed as an agent. It's not going to be a separate license. There won't be like a separate.
So your broker.
Your brokerage will take a piece of your pie. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, this is all about the money. Yeah, 100%.
That was my question on the agenda. It says, is TREC going into the pocketbooks of wholesalers?
100%.
That's what you're trying to say.
As a wholesaler, I honestly believe that's the motive, but I'm not mad at them because they're taking out all the bad apples, right? All the people who are wholesaling the wrong way, and it's okay. We pay fees on car registration. I pay fees on everything.
TREC is not, they're getting all their money, they're self-funded. They're not funded by the legislature. They're self-funded, and we get it off of license fees and other fees, for education fees and things like that. And even when TREC finds somebody, that goes into the recovery fund. They don't get to use that money. So if you think they're going to get rich off of wholesalers, they're not. Whatever the license cost. I think I'm a broker, and it used to be my license about $500 every 2 years to do it. I just renewed it last year. It was like $150. So
More than that, though, now as a wholesaler, I'm going to be paying a broker, or I have to be a broker.
maybe, or become a
That's what it
broker.
comes in.
Or become a broker, right? You would have to be the house, or you would pay a broker regardless. Yes, that's the,
Or you double close.
But TREC doesn't make that money.
yes.
Oh, I'm just playing a scenario here. My guy Jose wants to buy a house, dueño, can't do it because he's not licensed or the transaction is not regulated.
What was
He's
your
an average
question?
guy.
Sorry, what was your question?
He's gonna buy a house owner to owner finance, because that's gonna be part of the whole regulation. He won't be able to do it.
Yeah, you're talking about two different things. Wholesaling and owner finance is two different things.
That's what I'm saying earlier, so owner
Yeah,
finance.
owner finance is separate from wholesaling.
There you go.
If you're owner finance, you're the principal, you're buying it, you're closing on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not getting an investor to come in.
Same thing with subto. I'm gonna be a principal on it, I'm not assigning it, so I don't need to be part of the regulation.
Well, subject to contracts are assignable. So that's,
I won't assign it, I'll take on it.
then yeah, then you're fine. That you're the buyer at that point. That is correct.
Thank you.
Cool.
Ron, how much activity is happening in Fort Bend County? And what's like that typical price point of what you guys, like what's that typical property, if there is kind of like median property, in terms of size, age, price point?
Sure, great question. So he asked about size, age, what types of properties. So we're not going for the big multi-million-dollar homes in Sugar Land, right? We're not going to go to Richmond and go find these big properties. We're looking at Acres Home, Fifth Ward. We're looking at these run-down neighborhoods, right? Because at the end of the day, it's an investment. You can't make money on a house that's already brand new construction as a wholesale property. Okay, so the average square footage that we look for on a property is around 1,500 square foot. Okay, and then you're looking at around 5,000 lot square foot. Cookie cutters are 3-bedroom, 2 bathrooms. Sometimes they're 2-1s. Remember, we're looking for, there's two types of distressed situation: a distressed seller and a distressed property. Makes sense, right, guys? So that's what we're looking for, the distressed property. Along with that, why was that property distressed? Because the seller doesn't have the funds in order to fix that property up, right? We're not looking just in Fort Bend. We're looking all over in surrounding Houston, right? I'm talking about Galveston, Kemah, LaPorte, Lamarck, everywhere, right? Conroe, Woodlands. We're all over the place, and we're looking for these types of properties. And it has to be off market. Wholesalers Now, there's an argument that you cannot make money on the MLS. You have to get it discounted enough, but eventually you'll get smelt out if you're a wholesaler on the MLS, right? We always deal at 99.99% of my business is off market. Does that make sense?
It's just door knocking, or it's like digging up public records, or.
Yes. So the methods would be,
things like
yes. So you hit one of them, which is a little older now. Now it's cold calling, right? Door knocking used to be back in the days, right? Cold calling is one way. Direct mail is another way. You have driving for dollars now, where you're driving around neighborhoods and looking at distressed properties. I have data that will be able to let me, extract that from the software, from a third-party company, and call that seller right away and say, hey, I'm an investor in your market. I'm looking to purchase it cash.
So you're giving them a blessing.
Yes,
Okay.
100%. So we're giving them a way out. Does that make sense?
You're not bothering them.
No,
You're
we're not.
blessing
We're giving them a blessing, a huge blessing. We have saved so many people from pre-foreclosures. I cannot tell you. That is because now they called us, right? At the end of the day, it doesn't hit their credit. They can go out and move on with their life now and do whatever they're going to be doing. Does that make sense?
I have something to say. We already have RMLO. If we do the wrap, we're supposed to be using it. That's already something that is in place. But we're trying to fix something that it's already in place. So there are people who are not doing it right, as we know.
Yeah, and there's some language in the 1-4 contract that actually conflicts, because there's a paragraph in there that says that all the encumbrances will be basically paid off at the closing, and then in case of a wrap, it's not.
It's not. Yeah.
So you got to actually probably should get an attorney involved when you're doing a wrap. In fact, the ones I've looked at were done by attorneys.
100%. Cool. Any other questions, guys, in regards to the regulation, the rules, regulations changing with wholesaling and getting your license?
Actually, just clarification. So if in the future, when a wholesaler has to have their real estate license and be under a wholesale friendly broker, alternatively, could they just be an independent and do a double close?
They can do a double close. Yes, that is a possibility, right? But most it's a loophole. Most wholesalers don't know what that is.
Well, you couldn't go an FHA or anything because of the time period you have to have.
No, as a wholesale business.
Yeah.
We could.
So to answer your question, what is a double closing? Okay. Who here knows what a double closing is? I'll pick on somebody. What's a double closing?
We close with the seller and we close with the buyer.
Yeah. What's the purpose of a double closing?
Sometimes, for example, for us, it was the seller doesn't know what is the real price, and the buyer doesn't know what is the real price.
Okay.
Because sometimes with the assignment over 30,000, so the seller is upset, the buyer is upset.
Yeah. So at that point, you would do a blind HUD, right? You would hide your assignment. The purpose of a double close is to hide what you're making from the seller. Because remember, the seller's already in distressed situation. If they found out you're about to make $45,000 on them within a 1 week period of assigning it, they're going to have issues. They're going to 100%.
And then if you're a license holder, you're going to have some issues with, you basically took advantage of a consumer.
Yes, if you're a license holder, that's why a lot of the regulation talks are happening now, is because of this situation. If you're a license holder, you're going to think twice about doing something wrong with the seller.
Yeah. Well, we used to do flips a lot back in the 80s, but that was back in the 80s. It's the Wild West back then. But yeah, I sold one investor 43 houses. He owned them for about 30 seconds, and he flipped them into a deal.
He went to the next room and then closed it.
Yeah, then you had to go to the next room.
Is that what you just said there, as far as for making $45,000 on a deal is considered taking advantage of the seller?
Good.
Is that a blanket statement?
No.
I don't know what's going to. It's a consumer. Okay, let's put your consumer hat on for a moment. You thought you had a deal and you agreed on a price, and you found out that actually the price was considerably higher, and you found out about it. That consumer is not going to be very happy, and there's a really potential of a lawsuit.
That's not true. That's not true. That's not true because of the fact that you're paid the ability to perform. We can close within 30 days. You're paid
But you've got this is why when you're in a transaction as a license holder, you have to disclose that you're a license holder, that a consumer is at a disadvantage, and that's why we have to disclose if we're licensed in the data.
So if we disclose in that specific scenario, We say, hey, yes, I'm an agent, however, I'm not.
I'm all about transparency. If you're transparent with somebody and they still agreed they want to do that, perfectly fine.
So that,
Yeah.
that's not a discussion that's being had at the regulation.
No, we're talking about two different things again. We're talking about basically a double closing.
What a double closing is and how it.
Yeah, and again, if you're, FHA's got some time constraints. You got to be at least 90 days, which is why you don't see a lot of the iBuyers offering FHA financing, is because they can't. FHA's going to look, oh, you just closed them that 30 days ago. We can't give you an FHA loan. And that all came from stuff that happened in the 80s.
So as long as we disclose, we're good.
Yeah. When in doubt, call Rob Cook or Ron Rana.
Yes, so to answer your question, Alton, as long as you disclose it, then you'll be fine. The seller has to know your intentions, and that's not something that a wholesaler association made up. I mean, that's something that TREC and HAR abides. Make sure you guys abide by the rules.
Yeah. Well, first of all, HAR does not do enforcement of the code. Texas Realtors, everything that's adjudicated is always adjudicated through Texas Realtors. That's who does our professional standards. So,
I think the hiccup is on the consumer sort of having remorse. When there's full disclosure during the process, and at the end, consumer feels remorseful about the fees that's being made, then that wholesaler or that realtor or whoever that individual is still,
people can sue for whatever they want to sue. I mean, you can't control that. If they feel like they've been wronged by a professional, and by the way, the license holder, you are held to a higher standard in court of law. You should have known better. You should have explained this. And that's why, if you ever take my contracts class, my first part of the contracts class is about all the notices I want consumers to sign, to let you know, I didn't know, this is what I told you, and then have them sign off on it up front before you ever got into kind of thing. So again, I think I'm getting kind of redundant here, but transparency in a transaction is what I want to see from the consumer's perspective. But unfortunately, there are a lot of wholesalers out there who work very clandestine, and they don't want to tell people what's happening on the transaction. They're focused on what they're going to make. That's all.
It seems like, there's just these double use of words, right? TREC has disclosures that you present to a seller. You acknowledge who you are, what's going on, things like that. And again, teams that are doing it correctly, like Ron's team, you disclose that. And you may have your own in-house.
Yeah, Ron's the right way to do it.
Yeah, you have your own in-house stuff. But that's because that's the way you want to do it. Like, that's the brand you guys want to.
So when you say in-house, what do you mean? Because I don't disclose anything to a seller.
But,
we don't.
You're letting them know that you're working for an investor.
Yes, that's what you mean. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, there's no regulated form here. Please sign.
No, that's what I mean. We don't make them sign anything.
No, I know. Yeah, you're not making them sign stuff. TREC does. And then since you're not making them sign anything, but you're telling them this is what's happening, that doesn't mean that the other 89 wholesalers, millions of wholesalers, are doing anything.
They're not. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So
there's nothing to hold it to the fire. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Isn't that the inherent problem of wholesaling, that if you try to be honest with this lady or person or man, whoever, and said, look, you're in a stressful situation, you're 12 months behind on your mortgage, you're going through some personal issues, and we're going to take over your $45,000 you own the house, and we'll give you $15,000 to walk away. At least you won't be foreclosed on and then be put out by the constable. At least you've got $15,000 to start your life over again. Scenario you did.
Yeah, there are people out there who we've done that with, and they're fine with it.
And they're happy with it.
They say, as long as you sell my house, I'm fine. Now, the question we get is, are you a broker? We're not a broker.
You tell them, though, that I'm not the one who's going to be coming with the $60,000, that I'm basically going to be, I have to find somebody for this $60,000 to bring to you or to take over your mortgage.
We do have partners who are our funding partners. So whenever we do an open house on a property and a seller sees like 40 investors at their house, right? We have contractors, we have lending partners, we have funding partners. This is stuff that we're telling, and it's true because many of the people are contractors, many of the people are lenders who want to come out and take a look at that property. It's about setting the right expectation. Now, the argument can be, if you tell a seller that you're going to sell their house without a license, they're going to have, hell yeah, they're going to have an issue with it, 100%, right? But again, it comes down to your how well or how transparent do you want to be with that sale. Right now, it's not happening. It's not. Wholesalers are not. The problem is that they're leaving sometimes sellers at closing, or they're not they're not going to the end of the line. They're not going to the finish line. Does that make sense? Yeah. They're getting the property under contract for 30 days, right? And on the 29th day, they either try to go back and renegotiate, or they don't show up to closing. Now that's wrong. As a wholesaler, I always say, if you can't move that property within 72 hours, you need to let that contract go.
Right.
It terminates.
Yeah.
You need to terminate that contract.
The problem is that they're working it backwards. Instead of having a list of buyers, they're trying to, they let that marketing sheet go out there and collect all these properties. They don't know who the hell they're selling.
They don't know who's going to come and buy it. They don't know who they're selling it.
You know, hoping that somebody will call them.
That is correct. That's why there's issues right now that are being, that's one of the main issues right now. Why the people are calling for the regulations. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely does.
Okay.
Always remember, TREC likes us a lot, but they're there to protect the consumer from us.
It's not always intentional though on the wholesaler side to not sell the properties, because maybe they haven't done their due diligence in acquiring the buyer side first, and then going and acquiring the properties. And a lot of people right now are just out of ignorance. We're trying to get the egg before the chicken type of situation, and acquiring the property and then figuring out, I got 30 days to go find somebody. But that process hasn't been cemented in how it should be done initially, so that doesn't occur and those negative outcomes occur to everybody involved, right?
And that's why we're going to get regulation, because a lot of people go to these classes and they'll say, well, I can make, and they even had a radio ads going for a while, make $10,000 a month. We're going to show you how to do it. Yeah, you're smiling because you remember those ads, right? But you don't hear them anymore. Isn't that interesting?
Fortune Builders is not doing seminars.
They take a seminar and then they let them loose, and they don't have any vested interest. They made their money off the seminar.
Yeah.
And so they get out there and they're kind of, I would consider it malpractice. It's what they're doing, because they're not doing it the way he's talking about doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Some people have, like me, I learned for myself from mistakes. I wish that I had done some seminar or some school that is the proper way. Right now, we're doing is like letting the seller know, okay, we have funding partner the lending, because now we want to choose the properties of other people, right?
Yeah, and of course, people have been in the business a while, and you took all those classes. Didn't you have to keep taking classes?
Yeah.
This is a dynamic industry. It changes constantly. So what I'm saying, there's still value in going and taking this class. And if they ever get regulation, you're definitely going to want to go take the classes.
We want to know how to, for example,
you got to know how to navigate that.
We want to get the property under control, but at the beginning we didn't have budget, so it was insane looking for budget. Right now we have the properly budget listed, but because we're working years building that.
And that's what I'd always defended them. I said, there's people out there doing it. They have they already have a pool of investors ready to step up. Those are the ones I don't mind doing.
Yeah, and as a realtor, what I would recommend, you guys have the best access to cash buyers. People are buying. In fact, you have retail buyers.
Yeah.
So you are able to make more money than wholesalers on transactions. Let's be honest. That's what I think. You guys have people, if they're willing to pay, on the MLS in Houston, there were properties going for 50 grand over asking, 60 grand over asking, 100 grand over. There are properties going for over 100 grand over asking, right? Imagine you have that as a cash buyer, right? And you say, hey, I've got a few properties that I don't think is MLSable. You can't put it on the MLS, right?
Got that down again. That's copyright office real quick.
There you go. So, I have a property that, again, right? A lot of people sometimes want to buy fixer-uppers. They want to live in the property, and they want, right? They do it's called the house hack, right? They buy a multifamily, they live in the bottom unit, they rent out the rest. Right? So there are ways to doing it. All we're here right now, in front of you guys especially, is to bring the awareness of what's going on. Because really, there's nobody doing it. Texas is a massive state, right? And I'm again, right? We want to make sure we bring the awareness to all realtors, wholesalers, anyone who's aspiring to become a wholesaler, you know, because they get a lot of the cloud and mirrors, right? You see a lot of the clout out there. So, but at the end of the day, it's about doing the right thing.
Exactly.
That's for sure.
Exactly.
Any question anymore?
Great question, though.
Great. All right, I'm gonna stop. We're gonna make sure we stop our recording, our streaming here, and then here we go. Perfect.